Here are the top stories for today, September 9, 2021. President Rodrigo Duterte accepts PDP Laban's nomination to be their vice presidential candidate. His daughter, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, says she will not run for any national post following her father's decision. Slowly but safely, calls mount for a safe reopening of the economy to help ease the people's struggles to make ends meet amid the pandemic. The Commission on Elections will start a test run of internet voting this weekend, exploring this possibility in future elections that might help save government funds. And open doors for all, the Foreign Affairs Department confirms that the Philippines has welcomed Afghan refugees fleeing the conflict in their home country. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte says she will no longer run for president in the 2022 elections. This after her father, President Rodrigo Duterte, accepted his vice presidential nomination by PDP Laban. In an interview, Mayor Duterte said this does not affect her plans as their family agreed that only one of them will run for a national position in 2022. She also thanked her supporters for their continued trust and confidence. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte thanked his party mates for nominating him as the official vice presidential candidate of the PDP Laban.
Alam mo kung bakit ako tatakbo ng vice presidency? Is it ambition? Maybe. But is it really a sense of love of country? Yes. Is it really because I want to see the continuity of my efforts, even though I may not be the one giving the direction? Baka makatulong lang ako. Alam mo, alam ninyo na, nag-alaman natin na ang problema, droga pa rin, terorismo. Nandyan yung NPA.
The PDP Laban nominated Senator Christopher Bongo for president, but he declined.
Para sa isang probinsyano at simpleng empleyado lamang na ginawa ninyong senador, malaking karangalan na po na kinonsidera ninyo sa pagkapangulo. Subalit, inuulit ko, hindi po ako interesadong tumakbo sa pagkapangulo sa darating na halalan. Nakatutok po ang buong puso at isipan ko sa pagsiservisyo sa aking kapwa at wala po akong hangarin na makipagkumpetensya sa pinakamataas na posisyon sa bansa. Unahin nyo na lang po ang may gusto. Ang importante ay hanapan natin ng katimbang si Pangulong Duterte upang maipagpatuloy ang pagbabago. Yun ang continuity na inaasam natin.
The party also proclaimed Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo, Transport Secretary Arthur Tugade, and Leyte Representative Lucy Torres Gomez as its official senatorial candidates. Its guest senatorial candidates include Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque, Public Works Secretary Mark Villar, Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairperson Greco Bellica, and House Deputy Speaker Rodante Marcoleta. President Rodrigo Duterte expressed dismay that some senators are exhausting all efforts to show public hatred against him. He said members of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee are conducting a series of hearings on the purchase of COVID-19 emergency supplies, not to search for truth but to find fault with him and his administration.
Now, itong sa Blue Ribbon Committee, sa totoo lang, yung ginagawa ninyo ngayon sa administrasyon is really politicking. I don't know, maybe we just achieved so much that the fight can no longer be done based on the merits. Ewan ko ba, but baka wala na silang ma-display na magawa nila, kaya naghanap na lang na ikagagalit ng tao sa akin.
The president said lawmakers can ask the Commission on Audit to prove that there is nothing wrong with the procurement of emergency supplies amid the prevailing pandemic. He also reiterated his call on the senators to stop telling Secretary Francisco Duque on how to run the Department of Health.
Yung papatakbo niyan, hayaan mo siya. Let them make the programs, then spend the money. Pero wag ninyo na sa aga, magtatanong na kayo, may trabaho kayong binigay sa kanya. Nothing. Let him complete his work. At the end of the day, kung palpak ang trabaho niya, then that is the time for reckoning. But not before completing the programs of under his department in pursuance to his work as secretary.
The Commission on Elections is set to conduct the initial part of its internet voting test run this weekend. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez said the voting list would be posted on the official Facebook page of the Office for Overseas Voting.
Voting will start at 8 a.m. Manila time on September 11. That's this Saturday. And it will end by 8 a.m. Manila time on the 13th of September. That would be Monday. The voting list, of course, will be posted on the official OFO Facebook page using last names and first name and middle name initials.
Meanwhile, Comelec Commissioner Rowena Guanzon said she will ask Congress to pass a law on mobile app voting for future elections in case the activity is successful. She said once the system is used in future elections, it will help save government funds. The scheduled internet voting test run will be headed by Gov't, a mobile voting solution provider. Other service providers, Smartmatic and Indra Sistemas, will also be holding test runs within the month.
And of course, I have to appreciate the tech suppliers such as Gov't for doing this at no cost to the Commission. And I'd like to commend the OFOB staff and the FA Overseas Voting team for putting together this project despite our difficulties during this pandemic. But precisely this pandemic shows us that a mobile app voting will be necessary in the recent future.
As the September 30 deadline for voters' registration approaches, the Commission on Elections is opening more venues for people to register for the coming elections. Marita Mawahe has the story.
The Commission on Elections in Iloilo City will hold satellite registrations starting September 10, eyeing to reach an additional 12,000 eligible voters. Registration in Iloilo City resumed on September 6 after it was suspended since May 24 when the city was placed under modified enhanced community quarantine. During the satellite activity, the Comelec will not entertain registrants visiting their office on the second floor of the Iloilo Terminal Market. The city has more than 305,000 voters as of June 2021. In Dumaguete City, the Comelec on Wednesday held a satellite registration for persons deprived of liberty or PDLs at the female dormitory of the city jail in Barangay Bahumpandan. PDLs will be allowed to vote during the May 9, 2022 elections but only within the jail premises and under the supervision of a special board of election inspectors. Election Officer Ian Macaraya said the PDLs who are eligible to vote are getting registered during satellite activities at the different detention facilities. The Comelec registered 60 male PDLs on August 30. On September 10, there will be a similar satellite voters registration at the Negros Oriental Detention and Rehabilitation Center. In Pangasinan, Comelec offices are extending their operating hours until 7 p.m. from Mondays to Fridays to cater to voter registrants. Provincial Election Supervisor Lawyer Marino Salas said they are also open on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Meanwhile, the Comelec Pangasinan is also preparing for the upcoming filing of certificates of candidacy from October 1 to 8. Salas said among the guidelines set by the agency is limiting a maximum of 2 persons for those who will file their candidacy. Pangasinan has already reached the 2 million mark of voters registration. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muahe.
President Rodrigo Duterte reiterates that there is no corruption in the government's procurement of personal protective equipment or PPEs. He said it was a race against time to save lives during the start of the pandemic.
Ako na mismo ang nagsasabi, walang korupsyon. Ang una kong ang utos kay pagputok nitong pandemya, my first order to Secretary Duque was, buy all things kasi nang mamatay na yung mga doktor. Do not go into a bidding because it will delay the delivery and cause more death. Magbili ka na, sabi ko nga, mamili ka kung saan palengke, bilihin mo na. That was my order. And I take full responsibility for that. Ako yung nag-utos. Ako yung presidente. Ako naman ang sisihin ng mga tao kung nagtutumbahan na yung mga tao dyan sa kalsada, patay.
Meanwhile, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the price of PPEs presented during the Senate hearing was misleading.
Patas po, sa ebidensya, there was an attempt to mislead. Bakit po? Kasi nagpakita sila ng presyo na 1,300 daw po ang PPE. Bakit ko po sinabi na misleading at the objection sa korte niyan, Your Honor, misleading? Kasi yung petsa po ng 1,300 ay petsang Hunyo. Ang pinag-uusapan natin, magkano ang PPE nung petsa ng Abril, kung saan nagsisimula ang pandemya at talagang nagugulanta ang lahat ng bansa sa daigdig kakakuha ng PPE. Siyempre po, dahil ang buwan ng Hulyo ay 2 buwan na matapos ang Abril, dumami ang supply, kaya po bumaba ang presyo ng PPE.
For his part, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. pointed out that no favors were given to China during the procurement of PPEs. Galvez said they welcome any legislative remedies to address the gaps and weaknesses in the process. He also asked the senators for some sense of fairness and truth.
Yung po, nung ano po yun, nung panahon po na yun, Mr. President, kahit na ang US at saka Canada at saka yung mga Western countries, wala pong makunan ng face mask at saka mga PPEs, kumukuha po sila sa China.
Testing Czar Secretary Vince Dizon also attested that the procured PPEs were delivered to their intended recipients. Under the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, the government is allowed to undertake the procurement as the need arises in the most expeditious manner as exemptions from the provisions of Republic Act Number 9184 or the Government Procurement Reform Act and other relevant laws.
I just want to really emphasize po that all the PPEs that were bought and the masks were all given po by Secretary Galvez himself, Mr. President, and the team with Secretary Duque to our healthcare workers, all for free. Hirap na hirap po noon nung naghahanap po ng si Sec Galvez ng warehouse, naghahanap po ng kung ano-ano pang mga logistical resources para lang po mabilis na ma-distribute. So,
free rides continue at the MRT-3, LRT-2, and the Philippine National Railways. The Department of Transportation said the free ride program for vaccinated passengers has been extended until September 15. The DOTR said vaccinated authorized persons outside of residence or APORs who have received either their first or second dose of vaccine shall present their certificate of APOR status to avail of the program. The free ride program for vaccinated APORs is one way to encourage COVID-19 vaccinations among the public. It also helps shoulder commuter expenses amid the pandemic. Still to come, the Philippines welcomes the first set of Afghan refugees. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom.
Yorme Isko po, bakuna po ang ating kasangga sa patuloy na pandemya. Kaya upang maproteksyonan ang ating sarili at mga mahal sa buhay, huwag po nating palampasin ang pagkakataong magpabakuna sa lalong madaling panahon. Tandaan na sa patuloy na laban kontra COVID-19, ang disiplinadong Pilipino ay rehistrado para maging bakunado. Magparehistro't magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan. Manila, God first.
Si Mayor Richard Gomez po ito. Sa patuloy na pagharap natin sa COVID-19 pandemic, bawat isa ay bida at solusyon para wakasan ito. Huwag po tayo matakot magpabakuna dahil ito ay tiyak na proteksyon hindi lamang sa ating sarili, kundi pati sa ating pamilya, mahal natin sa buhay, komunidad. Kaya't magparehistro at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan. Ang disiplinado na Pilipino, rehistrado at kailangan bakunado.
The Department of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday launched a special online appointment system for active overseas Filipino workers at its Robinson's Galleria Consular Office in Ortigas. Active OFWs must submit their valid working visa or Seaman's Book, e-card from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, Overseas Employment Certificate receipt, and latest OFW information sheet. They may book their appointments through www.passport.gov.ph by selecting the DFA NCR Central Site or Robinson's Galleria Active OFW lane. Passport applicants who do not qualify as active OFWs, meanwhile, are reminded to book an appointment at other sites to avoid inconvenience. The Philippines has welcomed the entry of the first Afghan refugees to the country 3 weeks since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. In a statement, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. said the country has opened its doors to those fleeing conflict, persecution, sexual abuse, and death. Locsin, however, noted that no further information will be provided to the public for the refugees' safety and privacy. Malacanang earlier stated that the Philippines' doors are open to Afghan nationals fleeing Afghanistan to escape the Taliban's rule. Locsin also said the country will only accept refugees on a government-to-government basis to prevent the exploitation of refugees by non-state parties. Marikina City Representative Stella Kimbo appealed to the government to reopen the economy in light of the rising prices of basic commodities recorded last month. Kimbo made the plea following reports that the inflation rate increased to 4.9%, which is mainly attributed to increases in the prices of pork, vegetables, and fish. Kimbo said that if the economy remains closed, workers in the no work, no pay category will continue to suffer. Governor Gwendolyn Garcia has placed the entire province of Cebu under the general community quarantine status. Under the latest pronouncement of the IATF, Cebu province is under GCQ with heightened restrictions. Garcia explained that she placed the province under regular GCQ because the cities of Cebu and Mandaue are under the same classification. She said it is not logical to have a different classification unless the IATF forgot that they are on the same island. Garcia signed Executive Order Number 41 defining the protocols under the GCQ classification. Under the EO, local chief executives are permitted to lower the venue capacity of the concerned establishments depending on the COVID-19 situation in their jurisdiction. She also requires all workers to wear face masks and personal air purifiers at all times. The improvement in the unemployment rate makes growth prospects for the Philippine economy promising, according to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno. The latest results of the July 2021 labor force survey show signs of economic recovery given the decrease in the unemployment rate to its lowest since the pandemic hit. However, challenges remain as indicated by the decline in the labor force participation rate and the rise in underemployment rate. Gov't said with the accelerated deployment of vaccines, infrastructure development, and continued push for vital economic reforms, the Philippines may show medium and long-term growth prospects. The Philippine Statistics Authority reported that the unemployment rate went down to 6.9% in July from 7.7% in the previous months. However, the labor force participation rate declined to 59.8% in July from 65% in June. The underemployment rate also rose to 20.9% in July from the previous month's 14.2%. Up next, a former rebel leader says the NPA has no chance of winning its war against the government. And the United States donates equipment to help boost online learning in the country. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Paolo Medjones po para sa kampanyang Disiplina Muna na pinangungunahan ng DILG. Bakit ba kailangan magparehistro sa pagpapabakuna laban sa COVID-19? Mahalagang magparehistro dahil ito ang unang step sa pagpapabakuna laban sa COVID-19. May 3 pamamaraan upang makapagrehistro ang isang Pilipino na nais mabakunahan. Una, ang online registration sa inyong local government unit o LGU. Pangalawa, ang pagpunta sa mga vaccination centers at pagkuha ng registration form. At pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga pinuno ng barangay o sa mga barangay health center. Tandaan, online, sa mga vaccination site o sa mga barangay health centers ang pagpaparehistro sa pagpapabakuna kontra COVID-19. Muli ako po si Paolo Medjones, Disiplina Muna Ambassador na nagpapaalala, huwag matakot magpabakuna. Bida ang may disiplina. Magparehistro at magpabakuna para ligtas ang pamilya, ligtas ang bayan. Disiplinadong Pilipino ay rehistrado para maging bakunado.
Ang disiplinadong Pilipino ay rehistrado para maging bakunado. Kaya tayo na po't magparehistro at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bansa. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. More former top-ranking cadres of the New People's Army have exposed the lies and deceit committed by the communist terrorist group. Roberto Rosete Jr., alias Ka Bobby, said the claim of the CPP-NPA of winning the war against the government is a lie, as that has no chance of winning its revolutionary war. Kurt Russell Sosa, alias Ka Ugnay, a former political instructor, said he surrendered because he was fed up with the group's lies and deceit. For Christian Pastor, alias Khan, the former commanding officer of Front 33, losing the support of the masses made him realize that they do not have anything to fight for. Joy James Aguino, alias Amihan, meanwhile said he was enlightened by the government's efforts in solving various issues through the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC. Some of the ex-NPA cadres attributed their surrender to the implementation of Executive Order 70, or the whole-of-nation approach in obtaining exclusive and sustainable peace signed by President Rodrigo Duterte. An Army official said the Barangay Development Program, or BDP, is the answer to the issues that the communist movement exploits to draw communities into their cause. Brigadier General Ferdinand Barandon, commander of the Army's 403rd Infantry Brigade, said the BDP is a working mechanism to dissuade communities in the hinterlands from joining communist terrorist groups. Meanwhile, the local TF-LCAC launched a local government support fund support to barangay development program in Sitio Malinang Barangay Kanangaan in Cabanglasan Town, Bukidnon on September 3rd. The project includes the construction of farm-to-market roads, solar dryers, health stations, and water systems, and the provision of farm implements to farmers from 6 sitios of Kanangaan, an area that was formerly influenced by NPA rebels. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, has donated laptop computers and tablets to the Department of Education, or DepEd, to help boost online learning in the Philippines. The U.S. Embassy in Manila said the donations were turned over last September 6. The equipment will be distributed to select schools in Bicol Region and Western Visayas, including those involved with the mother tongue-based multilingual education primers developed for DepEd last year. The tablets will be loaded with e-resources in an easy-to-use navigation system allowing for offline use. The USAID will also test a model of teacher-directed continuous assessment to be implemented in the next school year. The latest assistance is part of USAID's All Children Reading, a 4-year project that supports DepEd in improving reading outcomes for early grade learners. Several government agencies have partnered to boost the promotion of Filipino culinary traditions. The Department of Tourism, together with the Department of Agriculture, National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and the Philippine Culinary Heritage Movement, will drive up appreciation and preservation of Filipino culinary traditions to ensure transmission to future generations. The DOT said food tourism will be included in the country's Filipino Food Month every April in support of food tourism stakeholders such as farmers and agri-communities. Tourism Chief Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the DOT had been harnessing the potentials of food tourism by formulating regional tourism circuits featuring food and farm experiences. She said the DOT is also conducting resource inventories and mapping of key food tourism destinations in the country. Around 2,000 job opportunities from government and private entities in Ilocos Norte will be available during the Career Week from September 11 to 17. The event is held in celebration of the 104th birthday of the late former President Ferdinand Marcos. Public Employment Service Office Manager Ana Marie Lizette Atuan said the Career Week aims to provide more jobs and training opportunities for displaced workers or those who were greatly affected by the pandemic. Applicants may register at the official online job portal of Ilocos Norte. In partnership with the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, other livelihood training opportunities are also available for interested applicants. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. President Rodrigo Duterte accepts PDP Laban's nomination to be their vice presidential candidate. His daughter, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, says she will not run for any national post following her father's decision. Slowly but safely, calls mount for a safe reopening of the economy to help ease the people's struggles to make ends meet amid the pandemic. The Commission on Elections will start a test run of internet voting this weekend, exploring this possibility in future elections that might help save government funds. And open doors for all, the Foreign Affairs Department confirms that the Philippines has welcomed Afghan refugees fleeing the conflict in their home country. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.